All right, everybody, time to go live. All right, I think we're going live. Hey, this is Glenn from Thrive After 50. I want to thank you for taking the time out to join me tonight on this live broadcast here. What I want to talk tonight about is empathy. You know, what has happened to the empathy that used to be prevalent in our world here? Um, there's so much going on right now, and I'm sure a lot of you are as frustrated and disgusted and saddened by a lot of the world's affairs that are going on. I don't know about you, but I feel like there's been a huge compromise in our values, our integrity, just priorities as to what's most important in life. And to me, that is just so sad here. But tonight I want to talk about empathy. Empathy, I think, is an important one. You know, what is empathy? It's basically the ability to sense someone else's emotions, what they're thinking, how relate to how they're acting, um, just what they're thinking, acting, feeling, doing, and being able to relate to that. And I think so much of that is escaping us nowadays, particularly in the way the country's being run, in my opinion. Quite often in local, in politics, I think as a whole, local politics, USA politics, so on and so forth. But it just seems like we don't care anymore, or so many of us don't care as to what others are thinking and doing, and it's become such a me society here. And I fear, as I know a lot of you may too, that the direction that we might be heading, if we continue along the course we are, is going to exclude more people than include them. I mean, whether it result in a war, whether it result in separation of families. But, you know, and right now we got something going on at the border here, which you're all familiar with. And, you know, there's a big roundup that started yesterday to deport, you know, illegal immigrants here. And, you know, I can understand both sides there to some extent. I mean, they're not supposed to be here in the first place, but they are. And these are still human beings. And part of the empathy of that is, for me anyway, is realizing that these people, you know, if we put ourselves in their shoes, they are coming from a situation that is worse than what they are presently risking to put themselves into. It's just like there was no choice. They don't want to come here and be left at the borders and be being separated from their children, or risking death or detention or what have you. And a lot of these people, these Mexicans in this instance, have come over and they have really contributed to society, or they've worked, they've done a lot of the jobs that other people don't want to have. All they want is a chance. And I think it's important that we put ourselves in their shoes at times and really, really feel for where they're at. And they, you know, like us, they only want the best for their families. They want the best for their children. They want the best for the loved ones, as we all do, as we all do. But yet I feel in a lot of ways we are too focused in just on ourselves here, and we don't step into the shoes of other people here. I've had people ask me, you know, what's the difference between sympathy and empathy? Well, sympathy is, from my standpoint, is kind of standing out and judging or feeling pity for someone, whereas empathy is really trying to understand and feel and step into their shoes and be willing to help them if needed. You know, it's rather than standing at the rim of a hole and seeing someone stuck down there and saying, "Oh, you poor little thing." It's figuring out a way where you can help them and get them out of that hole there. So that to me is what the real difference is there, and it's seeing beyond ourself. It's looking beyond ourself, and empathy for me is it's not really an expansion of ourself, but it's more of a dissolving of ourself. Dissolving ourselves because of our willingness to help others, that we can give our treasures to our help to. There are just so many struggles I think that we're going through right now. I mean, we've got color, we've got gender problems, issues that still exist here. Sexual orientation, economic status is one that has been around just forever. You know, our upbringings, a lot of us have been brought up in bitter, love-deprived families. A lot of us today are angry. A lot of us don't feel loved because we didn't experience love when we were young. And so how do you pass that on, or how do you exhibit love when you haven't been shown it yourself? You know, so that's and that goes for a lot of people. You know, that happens with a lot of people. A lot of us are lonely right now. Loneliness is a huge thing that is kind of rampant right now in society. And I think a lot of that stems from, you know, hey, I don't need anyone else. I can do it all myself. I think that's a lie. I think that's an absolute lie that, and I think we're finding out as time goes on that we do need other people in our lives to help us through. It's kind of like, you know, hey, lace up the bootstraps and, you know, be a man sort of thing, or step up to, you know, be the man. Don't let your humanitarian side, your weakness show through there in caring or anything like that. And, you know, you look at what society has been, you know, you kind of look what the old and the new is, but success has always been pretty much defined as the amount of money that you have, the number of material possessions you have, whether you're well off in your retirement compared to someone else. Again, it's kind of like all about ourselves here. I don't know about you, but you know, I felt very blessed and was pretty economically well off there for a long time. Had a house overlooking Lake Michigan, had money in the bank, had time to travel, and so on and so forth. But I still wasn't living my own life, you know. And for me, that ended up being the most important thing that I could do. And I was willing to sacrifice everything in order to live my life, because I found out I was living someone else's along the way here. And I was kind of stuck. I had a family to feed, mouse, and educations to pay for. But it was once they left and moved on that was when I really decided I needed to do this in my life and really find out who I was. And part of that was empathizing with other people and stepping into the shoes here. You know, I come from, you know, again, the old ways of doing things. I come from a city called Dearborn, Michigan, which is the Ford Motor Company world headquarters there. I'm sure a lot of you heard of it. Back in the days when I was being raised in the 50s and 60s, there was a very powerful mayor named Mayor Orville Hubbard that kind of ran things there with a very strong fist. And you would see it plastered across the city there on trash cans, on walls, on different places. Keep Dearborn clean. Okay, and you know, that sounds all nice and mighty, but what Dearborn clean was to keep it white. You know, keep the blacks out of the Detroit area, which Dearborn bordered. And I'll tell you, back in those days, if you happen to be driving through the city of Dearborn and you happen to be black, the chances of being pulled over were much greater, you know. And, you know, a lot of these people were just hardworking people that had to get to work and had to drive through the city to get there. it wasn't that they were troublemakers or anything like that, but there was just no empathy whatsoever because you were black, you know, and you were labeled then at that point. And the same thing is going on today with money. I mean, if you don't have that economic status there, if you're not well-to-do, a lot of people just, you know, turn their nose up at you and don't want anything to do with you, and, you know, thinking that they're better than you. And that just drives me crazy. I don't know about you, but wealth is nice, but it's especially nice if you're using it to enhance the goodness of who you are, as opposed to enhancing the jerk that some of us can be when we do have money. And I've heard that in the past, that you know, money only enhances who you already are. So, you know, if you're a jerk, you're just going to be a bigger jerk with money. And also, I think one of the old ways of being too is that money and who you know, it was never, well, in a lot of instances, especially as we grew older, it was always, what could this person do to help me? How can I get further ahead? What does this person have to offer me that, you know, a reason why I want to befriend him, as opposed to just, you know, having a real strong friendship and bonding there. Now, I grant you, a lot of us have that with our childhood friends who we grew up with and stuff, but it seems like a lot of that happened afterwards, when we kind of grew up, I guess, and were led to believe that economic status was just all so important here. And so we started looking to see what other people could do for us. Well, I like to think that the new way of doing things now, I like to think that we're evolving. Okay, it's my hope that we're evolving, because I think if we continue on the, like I said, continue on the same train tracks that we're on right now, it's humanity could be just one of the shortest lived species ever on Earth. You know, and we're already seeing it in climate conditions and what we're doing, and the greed and so on and so forth here. But anyway, so I think compassion is really, really important. Caring about the people. You know, what's the old saying that we're only as strong as the weakest link in our chain here? I think there's a lot of truth to that. If we really ever going to grow, tap into our creativity, our imaginations, and really try to change the world, we got to work as a team. We can't really be doing this on our own. Okay. So that's a huge change of view, a different way of viewing life here, is that, you know, those people, a lot of them who we have stuck our nose up at or felt like they didn't have anything to contribute to ourselves, are just as important as anyone else, you know, in the whole cog of life here, in that life tree. And, you know, we're basically one tree here. We're all interlinked, we're all interrelated. And I think that's something that we're going to start learning and become more aware of as we evolve here, is that just how important each person is to the progress and where we're heading in life here. And that includes helping others as well. You know, one of the things that I'm aware of is that, and I'm sure you are too, is that there's still part of us that has that child within. I mean, we think back to our youth here. If you ever look at a baby there, you see the innocence of them. Well, we were that innocent one time as well ourselves here. And when we were going through elementary school, and you know, we were truly being ourselves at that time. And we learned over time that it wasn't okay to be ourselves here. They wanted to hurt us. They wanted us all to be alike. You know, we never were told what we were doing right. We were told what we were doing wrong. And if this wasn't your thing, too bad. You had to learn it anyway, sort of thing. So, and so I think that really hurt that child that exists within us. And I think it's our challenge right now is to tap back into that child, because it still exists in all of us. It still exists there in all of us. And I think that's really, really important to tap back into and embrace there. And I think another lesson that comes from that is that, you know, there isn't anything in nature outside of ourselves, humans, that are trying to be something that they're not. You know, a rose is a rose. It's not trying to be a turnip, you know. A squirrel is a squirrel. It's not trying to be a moose, you know. It's, why is it that we as people feel like we have to be something other than what we are, you know? And it's a matter of just embracing ourselves and loving ourselves and giving ourselves to be permission. But we've had so many lessons, or we've been told so many times over the years that it's not okay to be who you are, that you're supposed to be this way. You look at the television, the media that's constantly is beating on you, you know, what you're supposed to be like, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to dress, how you're supposed to behave, so on and so forth. And we all start believing, I know I do anyway, and it's taken me a damn long time to try to break this, to really embrace who I am. And I want you to do that too. Start embracing who you are. And that's a journey in itself here, especially with where we're at right now in our age, and trying to tap back into that child there again, that is still exists there. So it can be done. It can be done. But it's just a matter of shifting back into that and letting that emerge there. And it's not like it's not going to emerge overnight. It's something that happens with time there. Hi, Debbie. So work on that. And I think that's important for all of us to stay in touch with that child within as we do grow. You know, again, I know the talks on empathy, having empathy for others, understanding that everybody is like that. We've all been told to be someone else than what we are. And we have to understand where that came from. It came from our families. It came from our parents. It came from our schools. It came from society. It came from the media, so on and so forth. But I think that helps with the understanding. And we really got to have empathy for ourselves here as well. So, you know, I offer 5 solutions to help us tap into our empathy. One is, as I've already touched, you know, I think we really need to make an effort to step into someone else's shoes and really try to imagine and understand what might have happened in their life here, and be more forgiving, more understanding, and really be able to listen and hear. And a lot of that involves asking questions and being kind and giving yourself permission to inquire and try to befriend someone. You know, it's the second one is just raising our awareness of the differences around us. Just because there are differences doesn't make them wrong. Okay, differences should be celebrated, and not only in other cultures, but within the people of those cultures, including ourselves here. Let's celebrate those. Education is so important, and unfortunately I feel like that is just so wacko. It's just like I kind of believe we're all being brought up to be economic slaves, to work for the big man here, and they don't want us really thinking for ourselves or being creative or using our imaginations or stepping out of line. And that has ramifications of its own to do that. But you know, we need to take care of ourselves here. We need to heal ourselves first before we can start healing others. And so that's the place we need to begin first. And to lead by example. And that'll help educate other people. And if we can pass it on to our children, to our grandchildren, what it is to have morals, values, integrity, and to express those and to try to teach those to our youth, I think that's just so important. And I think a fourth thing to do is to, even if we are caught up in the drama of how we've been raised and what's going on, and we are angry or feel life has been unjust or we've been victimized, so on and so forth, we need to shift from that. I think it's really important. And we've got to realize that when a stimulus happens to us and we react, there actually is a small amount of space between that stimulus and that reaction, and we are actually choosing, how to react. And I think what we need to do is focus on that little space, make it a little bit bigger, make it a little bit larger, and that's just a matter of focusing on it and realizing that we have the power to react any way that we choose to. But some of us are just so accustomed to right away throwing and reacting, and quite often in negative ways, that we don't even recognize that space there. So try to make that space bigger and choose how you're going to react to something. And the last one, number 5, is just risk. And I kind of touched on this before, but it's just risking being who you are, bringing out the true you, using your voice, expressing yourself, and risking to get to know others, okay? Talking to others, finding out who they are, and you sharing with them, you being brave enough to share who you are and what your beliefs are with other people. I think that's just really, really key here. So with that, there's 4 things I'd like for you to remember here. The one I touched on is that we are one web of life, one tree, one branches. We branch out, we grow, we're going in all different directions. That is evolution, that is growth. We are all meant to do that. We are meant to grow, but we are all connected through that one trunk, and we have our roots into the earth there. So that's just something I'd like for you to remember there too. And again, I touched on this one too. Who you are is who you are. Love that, embrace that, cherish that about yourself. Be that, be who you are. So remember to do that. The third one is to follow your heart. I think it's really, really important to listen to that voice within, that guidance that it has. And a lot of time it takes going within to really listen and hear that voice. It's cutting out all the distractions, all the noise, all that, getting away outside, going for a walk, being alone, by yourself, finding that special place, whatever it is for you, just to find that quietness that you need to go within. It could be in your chair in a closed room or something if you want, but one of my favorite places is outside. So listen to that voice, and there is a certain guidance there, I think. I know there is. It has worked for me, and it will work for you too. And your voice is going to be different than my voice, but listen to it, follow it, because that's you. That's where you've got to go, and embrace that big time. And the fourth thing is that, again, this is part of evolution. This is where things have to go, in my opinion. It's a matter of success or not having success. It's a matter of growth or turning around and going the wrong way. I think we all know in our hearts that it's the right thing, but again, we're so accustomed to not. But become part of evolution as opposed to working against it and pulling us in an opposite direction. So, well, I'd like to leave you, as I do each time, with a quote. And this one, empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. I'll read that one more time. Empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening to the ears with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. Take that with you. Well, I want to thank you for attending here, and I want to thank you for sharing this with your network of people. I hope you found something here to be of value for you. I really appreciate you all tuning in here and listening to these lives here. I'm starting to get more comfortable with doing them here. And I really, really appreciate there, and I wish you just the best week. Take care. Glenn signing out. Bye.